The last few years have been really good for liminal horror. We've already seen concepts like The Exit 8 make the jump from an indie game to a theatrical film, proving there's an audience for stories built around unsettling yet familiar open environments. But before Exit 8 made its way to theaters, an image posted online in 2019 alongside a creepypasta about no clipping into an endless maze of empty rooms captured the internet's imagination. Before long, the Backrooms had become one of the biggest standouts of the internet liminal horror genre, and one person inspired was Kane Parsons, a teenage filmmaker who decided to not let his dreams stay memes and took it upon himself to make an analog horror short about it. Using Blender and visual effects, he created The Backrooms, found footage, and uploaded it to YouTube, where it quickly went viral, racking up millions of views. The series became such a success that it caught the attention of A24, who approached Parsons about turning The Backrooms into a feature film. And just a few years later, at only 20 years old, Kane became the youngest director in A24 history. And given A24's willingness to take chances on experimental horror films, it seemed like a natural fit. But after years of lore building and turning it into something much bigger than it already was, how well does The Backrooms work when it goes from YouTube to the big screen? Hey, what's good, people? It's your boy, DatChickenWang, part of the Chicken Wang Gang crew, and I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there have been some changes going on over here, which has kind of hindered my ability to make videos, but that wasn't going to stop me from talking about this one movie I've been very excited to see. And really, I was just expecting it to be decent, at the very least, but did it live up to expectations as far as that goes? Well, hey, let me get into my review for The Backrooms. The Backrooms follows two main protagonists. Clark, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is struggling to move on from a recent divorce while the furniture store he owns is slowly failing. His therapist, Dr. Mary Klein, played by Renata Reinsve, spends her days helping others through their problems while quietly avoiding some of her own. Everything changes when Clark discovers an entrance to the Backrooms hidden beneath his store. Drawn in by the mystery, he becomes obsessed with exploring the endless maze of strange, interconnected spaces, even recruiting a few coworkers to help him uncover what lies deeper inside, all for the sake of research. And when Clark suddenly stops showing up to his therapy sessions, Mary goes looking for answers herself, only to find out she's about to become part of the mystery of the Backrooms too. And you know what? That is pretty much straightforward. Once the Backrooms gets established and our characters start to just delve deeper into the mystery of what the Backrooms actually are, that alone does a lot of the heavy lifting for what's going forward. But what surprised me most was the feeling of dread that this movie was building up throughout its runtime, because I mean, as our characters went deeper and deeper, you were expecting something to pop out, like maybe something spooky, a big monster, but no, it's pretty subdued through most of it. And even if you might see something out the side of your eye that didn't seem right, or you might hear something off in the distance that our characters might react to, it's building a lot of tension. You're waiting for something to happen, so you're clinging onto your seat for when that moment happens. And for someone like me who generally has a pretty good sense of direction, watching them make the map and then get lost at times by veering off course, it made me feel helpless, because I'm like, man, if these people are having trouble navigating the Backrooms, how would I do? It just made the whole situation even more tense, especially since you don't know if something's lurking around the corner or if they've made a good or bad move while exploring. But you know, I think a lot of that has to do with the movie sticking very close to its found footage and analog horror movie type of roots. By limiting what you can see as the audience member by putting the camera in the hands of somebody else, you are pretty much experiencing the same type of dread and situation that they're currently in. So you're helpless and you're just kind of being taken for a ride at this point. But even when the movie moves past the found footage perspective, the tension remains, because I mean, we're watching these characters just have these fight or flight responses to things happening that we can't even see, or sometimes we might catch a little glimpse of, but they're running for their lives and they have no idea where we're going. We have no idea where they're going, so we're all pretty much just lost in the Backrooms together at this point. The Backrooms itself almost feels like the main character of the film. After seeing all the different rooms, environments, anomalies, and entities people have imagined over the years, it's easy to understand why the concept became such a phenomenon online. The setting is flexible enough to support countless interpretations, and the movie manages to add its own ideas to that growing mythology. The influence of the Backrooms is everywhere now. from indie horror games to entire online communities. If you'd like a Backrooms light experience for yourself, I'd highly recommend checking out Captured 2. One of the concepts I found most interesting was the possibility of the Backrooms maybe being alive or having some kind of self-awareness, and Clark brings up this idea by making a metaphor that has to do with a dog. And early on, I couldn't really picture it, but the further we go into the Backrooms, the more that seems like a very real possibility. And then when Mary gets thrown into the mix, it isn't exactly confirmed, but it almost makes that assumption a very big possibility. Like at first, I was kind of thinking that, hey, this backroom situation might be like Silent Hill, where the person or individual trapped inside it, it's reflecting and twisting their own thoughts. And by the end of the Backrooms, I don't particularly think that's what the outcome was, but the movie leaves enough interpretation for you to kind of pick and choose what you want. And that's been a very strong part about the Backrooms mythology for a long time. And for a concept that built itself on mystery, I really think that was the right call for this movie. And I definitely know that's not going to work for everyone. But if anything, it means that there are more corners of the Backrooms that are waiting to be discovered by us, the audience. And I appreciate that. As for the characters themselves, Clark is at a low point in his life. He's dealing with a recent divorce, alcoholism, and a business that's slowly falling apart around him. Because of that, his fascination with the Backrooms never felt unbelievable to me. The deeper he goes, the more it feels like he's found something that finally gives him purpose again, even if that obsession starts leading him down a dangerous path. And a lot of that works because Chiwetel Ejiofor completely commits to the role. Whether Clark is excited, desperate, or slowly unraveling, he sells every stage of what he's going through, and you're genuinely on board with him wanting to see if he can unravel what's going on in the Backrooms, or if he can find what he's looking for. But what might he actually be looking for in the first place? Renate Reinsve is good as Mary too, though I found her character took a little longer to connect with, though that could also be because so much of her backstory takes place in her past, where there's already a good amount of trauma built up. Once she becomes more directly involved in the story, especially during the final act, she has some very strong moments. That said, I never felt like the characters were the main attraction here. They're effective guides through the experience, but the real star of the movie is still the Backrooms. What stuck with me the most wasn't who those people were, but how they reacted to the increasingly strange environments and anomalies around them in the Backrooms. Albeit the direction in these moments, especially during one particular dinner table scene, were incredibly effective. So here I am wanting to talk about movies, and I forget to mention one of the biggest factors that makes the Backrooms work as well as it does, and that's the sound design. Like, it's naturally woven into the movie that it almost disappears into the background, and I was already too absorbed in the movie to even realize it. So, hey, kudos to the sound design team. You guys had me locked in. Once the characters enter the Backrooms, you're not just hearing music layered over scenes. You're hearing the constant hum of fluorescent light bulbs, distant speakers calling out in different languages, and ambient noises that feel like they're actually part of the environment. It creates the impression that we're experiencing these spaces the same way the characters are, making the Backrooms feel tangible and believable. The score also does a great job setting the mood without overpowering what's happening on screen. At times, it leans into softer music you'd expect from dreamcore-inspired projects, while other tracks emphasize the unease and isolation of being trapped in these endless liminal spaces. One of my favorite songs off the soundtrack was Basement Land, which perfectly captures the feeling of perpetual dread throughout our Backrooms experience. Overall, I feel like this movie accomplished exactly what it set out to do, and then some. Like I said earlier, I was just hoping that this movie would be decent at best, but wow, it really exceeded my expectations as far as what I thought I was going to get. So, this being Kane Parsons' directorial debut for the big screen, I am wowed, and if there are any more projects in the Backrooms that will be coming up at a later time, I'm definitely keeping an eye out for those. What this film impressed me the most with is proving that the Backrooms can function outside of YouTube perfectly fine. So if anything, I hope this movie draws more people into the fandom. In fact, Kane Parsons' original YouTube video has actually gotten a lot of views since this movie came out, so I will link his YouTube channel in the description. Go get caught up on some Backrooms lore, maybe go check out some other content creators, and you will find out why this community is so active and as big as it is, and I hope you find something there that you like as well. And with that, I'm giving the Backrooms a rating of hot and crispy. I originally leaned towards finger-licking good with a little extra spice because I recognize this movie won't work for everyone. The atmosphere-heavy approach and ambiguous ending may leave some viewers wanting more concrete answers, especially with a tonal shift leading into the finale. But for me, that's exactly why it worked. The atmosphere was excellent, the sound design was immersive, and the sense of dread stayed with me long after I'd left the theater. This is a movie that understands why people were drawn to the Backrooms in the first place, and I walked away very happy that I saw it on the biggest screen I could. Here's hoping we get to explore the Backrooms again sometime outside of YouTube in the future. Whew, I've been wanting to do more movie reviews, but between looking for a new job and the price of gas, going to see a movie is a little rough in this economy right now. I am working on a Samurai Champloo retrospective though, so there will be more content to come soon, even as for older movies I may have missed. Anyway, if you liked the content, or if you didn't, please let me know in the comments, and if you made it this far, I wouldn't be mad if you dropped a like. Hoping to get more content out there, so thanks for continuing to rock with me for as long as you have, and I'll catch y'all for the next one. Yo yo!